What is precocious puberty? Precocious puberty is when children's body begin to change into adult bodies too soon. Too soon. This change is known as puberty. Most of the time, puberty occurs between the ages of 8 in girls and after 9 years old in boys. However, Black, Hispanic, and Native American children might reach puberty a little earlier. Precocious puberty is when puberty begins too early for a child who's going through it. All right? Now, precocious puberty, what do they mean by too early in a child? You have finding kids starting to develop puberty at 6 and 7 years old. This is called precocious puberty. When you're having puberty way too early. Even 8 is considered really early. Okay? Precocious puberty is even earlier than that. You can start saying the kid is starting to develop puberty at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. These are precocious puberty. In puberty, muscle and bone grows quickly. The body changes shape and size. It starts to change from a child to more of an adult teenager. The causes of precocious puberty can't be found. That's the thing. They don't really know what causes it, but it happens. But there are some factors to it, and we're going to go through that. Rarely, certain conditions such as infections, hormonal issues, tumors, brain issues, or injury may cause precocious puberty. Treatment for precocious puberty may include medicines to delay puberty, such as hormone blockers and things like that. All right? So we're understanding what precocious puberty is. The causes of this type of puberty. The causes that they believe, what actually happens. To understand the cause of precocious puberty in some children, it is helpful to know what happens in puberty. The brain starts the process of making a hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone, GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. Now I want y'all to understand what gonadotropin releasing hormone is. Gonads stand for sexual organs. So understand that. Gonadotropin releasing hormones. So when you hear gonads, that usually has to do with sexual organs. Usually it has to do with a man's testicles and a woman's ovaries in her I'm losing my hand. And her womb. Okay? So it usually has to do with a man's testicles and a woman's ovary in her womb. Okay? When this hormone reaches the small bean gland at the back of the brain, the base of the brain, called the pituitary, it can lead to more estrogen in the ovaries and more testosterone in the testicles. The estrogen makes female traits, testosterone makes male traits. Understand this. When a child starts to go through precocious puberty, they release more gonadotropin hormone. Now, what causes the gonadotropin hormone to be released more? We'll talk about that. They release more gonadotropin hormone. That hormone now signals up to the pituitary gland at the back of the brain. You have this small little gland. It's one of the master glands in the body. You have a few glands that's a master gland. The pituitary is a master gland. The thyroid is a master gland. The thymus is considered a master gland of the body. These are master glands of the body. They have a huge effect on the body. Okay? So you have this hormone going up from the gonadotropin hormone is secreted, and it stimulates the pituitary to make the child's, remember, this is still a kid. This is still a kid. This is a 6-year-old. This is a 7-year-old. I have an 8 and a 6-year-old. I couldn't imagine them going through puberty right now. This is a 6-year-old. This is a 5-year-old. This is a 7-year-old. This is an 8-year-old starting to produce gonadotropin hormone that affects their pituitary gland, that causes their body to signal to the ovaries and the testes, hey, I need you to start pumping out more estrogen, and I need you to start pumping out more testosterone. Okay? This is what it's saying right here. That's what's happening right now. Okay? So this is precocious puberty. Risk factors for precocious puberty. Being a girl. Being a girl. Girls are more likely than boys to have precocious puberty. Okay? This happens almost 4 times often than it does in girls than it does in boys. It's actually rare in boys. It's higher in girls. Even though it's still rare to have someone under the age of 8 go into puberty, it's still rare for that. It's even rarer for a boy. It's much more common, even though it's rare, to happen to girls. Another risk factor is being obese. Carrying extra weight increases the risk of precocious puberty. Precocious puberty is still rare, affecting less than 1% of U.S. population, according to the National Institute of Health. It's unclear why it's happening more. It's unclear why it's happening more. It is increasing in rate. Even though it's still rare with less than 1%, it's increasing in rate. Although the possible causes of precocious puberty is diet, obesity, genetics, socioeconomic status, and potential exposure to certain chemicals. I'm going to read that again. Precocious puberty is still rare. Fewer than less than 1% of U.S. population, according to the National Institute of Health. Okay? It is unclear why it's happening more, though. I want y'all to understand this. It's happening more. And the possible causes is diet, obesity, genetics, socioeconomic status, and potential exposure to certain chemicals. All right? So now we talked about precocious puberty. It's happening more. Less than 1% of the population gets it. Less than 1% of the population gets precocious puberty. But that number is increasing. That number is increasing. Okay? The average age of puberty onset ranges from 8 to 13 for girls in the U.S. and has been dropping. Check this out, y'all. Has been dropping by 3 months every decade for the last 40 years, according to 2020 analysts of global data. That means in 40 years, if it was average for a girl to get a period around 14, now it's 13. It has dropped 3 months every year. Every 10 years. So you can imagine if it's at 13 now, in 40 more years, that means people that were having kids in the 90s, the average was like 14. Let's say it was 9 to 14, if we want to say that. Now it's 8 to 13. Maybe in another 40 years, it may be 7 to 12. The population has lost 3 months every decade when it comes down to getting the period. When someone going through puberty, I want to say getting the period. Someone going through puberty. And I'm focusing on girls because this affects girls more than boys. 4 to 5 times more likely precocious puberty is going to happen in girls versus boys. So I'm going to talk more about girls than boys because it's happening way more to girls than boys. In the mid-19th century, this is in the 1800s, the mid-19th century, girls have their first period typically comes 2 years after showing breast or pubic hair at the age of 16. So if you was in the 1800s, it was greater chance that a person would have their period, a girl would have a period between the ages 15 and 16. Today, puberty begins between 8 and 13 on average, with the typical girl having their first period at 12. Okay? Now, we're talking about people back in 1820, 1830, 1840. They were having their period around 15 and 16. Okay? They would start developing breasts and pubic hair, because the period, we said, comes later. It's not the first thing that happens. They start to develop breasts, and they start to develop pubic hair and underarm hair, and then they started to get their period later. That's the last part of puberty in the young lady. And they will get their period around 15 to 16 if you was in the 1800s. 1830, 1840, 1850, 1860. This is what this is saying. The same girls 150 years, 170 years later are now getting their period an average of 12 years old. That means they have taken 4 years off, if you want to say, of childhood, if you want to say that. Their bodies are becoming more of an adult, more of maturing sexually at a young age. The average age now of puberty is between 8 and